Chapter 33. Name, Tsunaka Hanami. Age, 17. Sex, female. Race, high human. Class, caster, empty. Level, 74 EXP, 12, 693, 845, 012/175, 000000000. HP, 111, 930/618, 640, 30,932 HP/min, x2. MP, 12, 503/278, 240, 44,067 MP/min, x2. Stamina, 22%, 836% per hour. Strength, 832.5, plus 83.5, x2. Vitality, 836, x2. Dexterity, 546.1, plus 111.5. Intelligence, 1201.5, plus 497.5. Wisdom, 1191, plus 440. Luck, 249.8. Stat points, 10. Money, 1,481,523,422,045,012 yen. I feel dead. I mean, I've been doing this damned boss rush for hours now, and everything inside me feels terrible. My stamina's spent, my MP's spent, my HP's low, my muscles are dead, my bones are aching, my head is spinning, and I'm pretty sure I would have thrown up if I wasn't lying on my back. Overall, I feel pretty terrible. Well, at least intelligence and wisdom are above 1,000 now, so that's nice. Still doesn't really compare against Shiro's insane power boost though. Not that it's a fair comparison. My Shiro, no matter how different he is a Shiro, and all forms of Shiro are unreasonable. My Shiro, huh? The thought made me giggle slightly. That aside, the skills are the most important one here. It's why I set out to do this whole boss rush thing in the first place. There's, of course, the maxing and evolution of spinning prana bullet into arcane armory, but that isn't the only impressive one. Sprint LV 84, 54%. Pushing extra strength into your legs, you gain a temporary boost to your speed. Gives temporary plus 206% boost to dexterity. Costs no stamina to use. Passively grants plus 41.5 dexterity. Yep, that's right. Sprint no longer uses any stamina. 206% boost to dexterity is now free. So while the dexterity on my status is just below 550, the exact number is actually above the 1000 mark, which is pretty awesome. And useful, since it helps close the lack of speed I've been having. But this isn't enough. Not yet. There's still one more thing I can do. Class, caster, empty. I still have that second class slot. I've been putting it off for a while now, and I don't really want to do it now. Warning. Once you choose to select a second class, the system will calculate the possible class selections based on your skills. This selection cannot change once you progress. Do you want to begin the class selection? Y/N. Especially since that's a thing. I thought I would wait until I have more skills, until I've done more, but there isn't much time left to wait. So, with a slow sigh, I press the yes option. Class selection will begin. Please wait shortly. Accounting, skills, and experience gained. Drawing relevant information from the root. Class selection has been made. Tap open to expand the results. Didn't expect to see the root mentioned by the system. Does that mean that my gamer system is built from the root? I mean, obviously. Everything is made from the root, but never mind. That's a pointless question anyways. Now then, let's see our results, shall we? Detected skills, arcane armory, reinforcement, alteration, gihen, blacksmithing, mystic code crafting, Morningstar, Age of Babylon. Developer. An ancient race from the void beyond, one said to have come and created the world tree and its leaves. Their numbers are few, their origins unknown, but the power they wield allows them to shape the empty void into anything. Grants the skill, World Shaper. Grants the skill, Void Resistance. Doubles, Natural, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Luck. Grants a plus 50% bonus to Natural, Strength, Vitality, and Dexterity. All skills that originate from the concept of creation will be twice as potent. All skills that originate from the concept of creation will gain EXP thrice as fast. Holy, alright, now that's a stacked first choice. Okay, so it essentially tied me to the void, and gives me World Shaper, which, if its name is taken literally, allows me to manipulate or even create worlds. Not only that, but it'll double my natural intelligence and wisdom as well. Quite tempting of a choice, but I shall wait. Next. Detected skills, Sprint, Reinforcement, Gihen, Sword Mastery, Axe Mastery, Battle Continuation, 9 Lives, Voltaic Charge, First Form, Thunderclap and Flash. Storm Warrior. A warrior whose soul dances with the approaching storms. In its presence, others would flee, fear overtaking as nature's unstoppable force approached, but they would not. They would smile in its face, their hearts leaping with joy as they joined the dance. Doubles, Natural, Strength, Vitality, and Agility. Grants a plus 50% bonus to Natural, Intelligence and Wisdom. When in the presence of a thunderstorm, all attributes gain a plus 600 boost. All attacks related to the Lightning attribute deal double damage. All skills related to the Lightning attribute will gain EXP thrice as fast. Oh boy, another good one. The doubled Strength, Vitality, and Agility are already a boon, and the plus 600 boost when a thunderstorm's happening is just incredible. The fact that all Lightning attacks will deal double damage is just as insane. But I'll wait for the next one. Detected skills, Kaleidoscope, Mystic Eyes of Myriad Perception, Enlightenment of a Sacred Fig. World Traveler. Tied by none but the single desire of exploration, they venture into worlds unknown, looking and searching for sights never seen. Though not strong normally, their travels through the uncaring void has hardened them, turned them into something beyond the realm of mortals. Grants the skill, Void Resistance. Grants a plus 50% bonus to Natural, Vitality, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Luck. Triples the EXP gained for Kaleidoscope. Oh, come on. Its stat boost isn't all that special, perhaps even small when compared to the other two class options, but that final line about how it'll triple the EXP gained for Kaleidoscope makes it far more valuable. Ah, but there's one more class option under this one, so let's see that first, yeah. Detected skills, Retainer of the Flame Goddess. Flame-touched Elementalist. They are ones who carry the torch of the eternal fire, the retainers of the ancient flame of life. The spirits of fire waft around them, blessing them, and they wield the scalding flames as their own. Grants the skill, Scorch Deliverance. Doubles, Natural, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Luck. Grants a plus 50% bonus to Natural, Strength, Vitality, and Dexterity. When Rosaria fights alongside you, all attributes gain a plus 600 boost. All attacks related to the Flame attribute deal double damage. All skills related to the Flame attribute will gain EXP thrice as fast. Alright. So it's essentially the fire version of Storm Warrior, except focused on magic instead of physical power. From its name, I'm guessing Scorch Deliverance is pretty much the fire version of Voltaic Charge. Damn, they're all good. Okay, let's do some eliminations first. World Traveler sounds nice, and it's probably better in the long run, but I don't think it'll fit for the current situation. The triple EXP boost, Kaleidoscope, will gain is nice and all, but Kaleidoscope itself is an incredibly hard skill to level up, and I don't have much time to train it up. So that goes out of the list. Flame-touched Elementalist is nice too, but I don't have any flame-based attacks on my person right now, and Scorch Deliverance will probably be given to me at level 1. Fine in other circumstances, but not this one. So that's out as well. Which then leaves Developer and Storm Warrior. And that's the hardest part, ain't it? Leaving aside the other intricacies, Developer focuses on increasing my intelligence and wisdom over the others, and since Morningstar and Arcane Armory helped create it, then it's safe to assume that Developer will make both twice as strong. On the other hand, Storm Warrior will increase my strength, vitality, and dexterity more than the others, and it'll make Voltaic Charge twice as strong. Of course, then there's that plus 600 stat increase as well, placing my strength and vitality comfortably above the 2000 mark. Which is better? I don't know. Both are good. But I think Developer's the choice. Storm Warrior making Voltaic Charge stronger is nice and all, but Voltaic Charge is still level 13. On the other hand, Developer makes both Morningstar and Arcane Armory, stronger, with the latter skill being at level 50 and the former being maxed out by default. And since reinforcement and its friends are also counted in the detected skills, then they'll probably also receive the power and EXP boost developer will give. Of course, World Shaper is there as the extra cherry on top. You have chosen developer as your second class. Proceed. Y/N. So, with my fingers crossed, I press yes. Command acknowledged. Beginning class admission. Twilight has come, and Saber sits on her lonesome, watching as the creeping shadow of the planet slowly encroaches upon the warm skies. Tiamat has awakened, her army of Lamu is imminent, Ibaraki and an unknown servant is fighting alongside the goddess, and the sea is slowly rising, taking over the lands as Tiamat slowly moves towards the walls of Uruk. It's a lot to ponder about. How will they defeat her? How will they even attempt to restrain her? How will they defeat the Lamas? How will they even approach Tiamat? Even Hanami herself had said that she wouldn't be able to do much, not as she currently was. She's been gone for a while however, so who knows how much has changed. Not all is bleak, of course. With his recent change, Shiro will definitely be able to damage the approaching goddess. Gil and Gilgamesh should be just as capable, their strength increased by simply standing in the lands of Mesopotamia. Mash's shield will hold against all, empowered even further by the artifacts Hanami had gifted her. Ushiwakamaru, Benkei, and Leonidas will work to defend the walls, their weapons made stronger by Hanami and Merlin's magic. That flower Magus himself will work within the castle, maintaining the barrier around Uruk. Quetzalcoatl will be at the forefront, burning away the sea of mud with the fires she controls. Jaguar Man will work by the goddess side, slamming away any approaching enemies when needed. Ritsuka will fight as well, much to Dr. Romani's concern, the noble phantasm she somehow bonded with ready to cleave against all that is demonic and evil. As for herself, her draconic heart pulses, and the golden claymore she'd taken from Ibaraki appears in her hand, glowing an eerie gold as curses waft around it. She stares at it for a moment, watching her own reflection on the blade. She'd been rather confused when Ibaraki left her claymore, and even more so when she noticed just how comfortably it had bonded with her. She initially thought that the Oni general simply left it behind, seeing no way of retrieving it from her. But that didn't seem right. The Oni is fast, and certainly fast enough to snatch it from her hands. So why? Why leave one of her noble phantasms behind? Her questions came to an end when she finally asked Hanako on the matter. The claymore's happy. The girl had said, eyes a swirling blue adorned by flecks of gold. If you'd stolen it, then the curses inside it would have been furious, but they're calm, almost happy. Hanami turned her eyes back to Saber, and she smiled. The claymore was given to you, a symbol of respect. Things like this aren't unknown to her. She's taken her fair share of weapons and trinkets from the Saxons, some given willingly and some stolen from their bleeding corpses. However, this one feels special. A symbol of respect, is it? It's slightly jarring to know that an Oni, a demon, would show respect to someone like her. They'd only met once, fought one. There is nothing between them. But she can't help but smile at it. Use it and defeat me. Is what it almost sounds like, and Saber can easily imagine the grin on Ibaraki's face as she says so. With a short breath, her draconic heart pulses again, and flames burst from her right hand, twisting and dancing around the golden claymore, waiting for things to burn. She watches it for a moment, seeing the way the fire mingle with the dormant curses. Then, she brings out Excalibur into her other hand, and wind explodes from it, violently shrouding the blade. Excalibur shines for a moment, unused to the mass of curses in her other hand, but it quickly quiets down, and the wind around it begins to calm, slowing but still dangerous. Wind and fire. She smiles. I can work with this. It's strange really. Ritsuka never considered herself a fighter, she still doesn't, but the thought of heading out to fight alongside her servants doesn't feel as worrying as she initially thought. She wonders how much of that confidence actually comes from herself. She calls forth Salem into her hands, staring deep into her reflection. The blade feels cold in her hand, almost as if what little heat in the air is devoured into it, taken away and lost. The sword feels dangerous, foreign, even more so as she sits under the looming light of the moon. It feels almost wrong, in a way, as if the sword would begin to devour her if she holds on for any longer. And in some ways, it already has. The usual bundle of energy and worries she feels are suppressed. They're still there, but muted, distant, leaving nothing but a single desire for everything to end. Ritsuka frowned. Once this ends, the seventh grail will be gathered, and the end of this grand journey will come. A lot had gone by. She'd undergone many things, met many people, fought just as many, lost just as many. It's jarring really. She can barely remember what the real world even looks like now. Just a couple more. Just 2 more singularities to finish, and it'll be done. This journey across time will be over, and she'll be able to settle down and just rest. When it all ends, she'll no longer be a master. She'll return to being normal, or as normal someone like her can become. Her progress will then be reported to the clock tower, and something will happen, and then what? There's no one waiting for her, no one to return to. She could try to learn under the clock tower, but she's barely a magus. Creeping fear rises for a moment, cold sweat trailing down the back of her neck. But it soon fades, the emotion devoured by the sword in her hands, leaving a small niggling feeling of worry amidst the apathy. Ritsuka looks down to it, watching her reflection slowly distort, and she sighs and lets the sword fade into shards of light. There's no point in wondering about those possibilities at the moment. They're on the last stretch now, they've reached the apex of the story. She can't let herself be distracted now. The night is getting awfully cold though. With a slight grimace, Ritsuka stands, giving her arms and legs a quick stretch before she begins heading back towards the small cabin she's made home in. She isn't tired, not yet, but there isn't much of a reason to stay awake anymore. She reaches it soon enough, and she silently pushes the door open, careful not to wake those who've fallen asleep. Slowly, she makes her way to her bed, and with a small sigh, she lays on the bed, covering herself with several layers of blankets to ward off the cold night air. She falls asleep soon after, completely missing the way her magic circuits almost seem to glow be bright purple in the darkness. World Shaper LV1, 0%. The power to create is a curious one. It's a neutral force, one allied to none and stopped by none. Through it mountains are made, winds blown, and the sea and the skies are separated. But through it death will come. Through it volcanoes are made, typhoons are blown, and through it the stars above will fall. Now, what will you do? Allows the manipulation of all forms of terrain. Cost and difficulty depends on the material being manipulated. Passively grants +5 to all attributes, 5* level. Due to the developer class, EXP gained has been tripled and potency has been doubled. The addition of developer to my status has been completed, and so I'm back in the real world, having been in remnant of Skypiea for so long that the dawn of the next day has come. That isn't the most important part though. Allows the manipulation of all forms of terrain, is it? So, if I have enough MP for it, it'll allow me to control all kinds of terrain? Now that gives me a wonderful idea. But, that aside, there's something that I've been wanting to do for a while, but haven't had the chance to do. But I have a chance now, more than ever. Blacksmithing LV67, 67%. A skill with the forge and hammer, the power to craft and mold iron and steel into shape, turning them into objects of use. Maximum rank of materials capable of being used, A+. Due to the developer class, EXP gained has been tripled and potency has been doubled. With my new class, the potency of blacksmithing has been doubled, increasing the maximum rank of materials used from B+ to A+. Not sure why it's just A+ and EX or something, since it is doubling from B+ and all, but that's not so important. The fact is, I can use A+ materials now, and from all the things I've done, I have quite the backlog of A to A+ materials I've been itching to use. And for what exactly? Well, I've been itching to get Awesome Alcera, a new upgrade, you see? It's nice and all, but I think giving it one more upgrade, especially since I can a whole lot more now, would be pretty damn great. And there's also that Quest Gill's request made, so doing this will be knocking 2 things off with 1 stone. So, with purpose and excitement, the tool station comes into existence and I find myself standing before the Soul Forge, with all the materials I've been thinking about already neatly placed by the forge's side, packed into their individual wooden boxes. Void's Dust. Rank A. A strange powder created from condensed void energy. It looks impossibly dark, as if the light it touches finds themselves trapped. The power within it is not to be forgotten however. I have an entire giant crate of this thing, especially after killing the Shadow Servants and Ngramenu. Wasn't sure about using this, but now that I have void resistance, I might as well. Corrupted Heroic Shard. Rank A. A shard created from the condensed concepts of heroism. However, outside forces have corrupted it, perverted it, and turned it into something else. Got this one a long time ago, back when I killed Cu altar in that weird altar Fuyuki. I have a couple ideas on what I'll use this on, but that'll wait for later. Synthesized soul chunks. Rank A. Chunks of rock, imbued with the soul of a great beast. They glow a dim blue, pulsing with magical energy. I have a lot of this one. Each boss from Remnant of Skypiea dropped one of these, so I have an entire crate's worth. Since they're all full of magical energy, I'm probably going to use them as catalysts or magic boosters of some kind. Void Thorium. Rank A+. A bar of thorium that'd absorb the latent energy of the void. It is incredibly strong and durable, and resistant to all forms of degradations. Realizing that my high human allows things I've come in contact with to evolve past their natural limits, I placed a number of thorium bars up high at empty space and left them there for a day or two. The result is, well, as seen above. Scoria. Rank A. A metal burning with the souls of the dead. It is violent and hungry, its malevolent aura flaring in search for magical energy to consume. And finally, this. Bought this metal bar from the obelisk some time ago, but I wasn't able to use it back then. Now then, with all the materials laid out, I bring forth Alsam Alcera from my inventory, place it atop the soul forge. And I begin. First, with my hammer and magic, I deconstruct it, separating the body from the head, careful not to destroy too much of the essence I've built into the head. It's far easier than I expected, probably because developer is making blacksmithing twice as good. Then, I begin building a new body for the staff, forging it from a combination of void thorium and scoria this time. The two metals refuse to mix at first, the scoria clearly not wanting to mix with the emptiness void thorium brought, but with effort and time, I begin melding the two together into one whole. And as I bring my hammer down, my magic flares, mixing with the combined metals. The energy carries with them my experience, my history, and my hopes. They carry the truth I've seen from Ngramenu, and the meaning they hold. The body done, I carefully attach the head onto the new body, careful to not shatter the bright gem that acts as the staff's main head and catalyst. And just like that, the staff is done. Of course, I'm not done, not yet. There's still a whole lot of materials I need to use. So, my magic circuits flare, and Morningstar, and Age of Babylon activate. The one corrupted heroic shard floats up, and using Gihen, I break the shard into 8 individual pieces, enchanting them with both flame and lightning. The many synthesized soul chunks are crushed into a fine powder, all glowing and glittering under the forge's dim light. The fine dust then shines as I imbue the concepts of star and light into them, courtesy of Morningstar. Then, finally, I bring them all together. Using Morningstar's control over gravity, I make the 8 pieces of the corrupted heroic shard float around the staff's head, orbiting around it like planets around a star, using the void dust to bind them all together. The fine powder undergoes the same process, but instead of floating around the head, they spiral around the entire staff, almost like little fairies circling around the magical staff. Occasionally, sparks would come from them, burning with faint magical energy. All at once, with a deep breath, I let my magic circuits flare, and Kaleidoscope activates, drawing magical energy from the void between worlds and infusing them into the staff. The skill mentioned severe damage, but that doesn't really come across until you experience it firsthand. And by God does it hurt. Still, I persevere, using stoicism to keep my voice down as I saturate the staff with as much magical energy as I can possibly handle. Under such magical pressure, my element of void begins to grow, and slowly, the staff begins to change. The staff's dark metallic shine becomes even darker, and the gem situated on top glows, its hue turning from a bright blue to an almost blinding white. Finally, time for the final chorus. Targeting the 8 corrupted heroic pieces, and the many specks of synthesized soul dust, and mystic code crafting activates. The concepts of flame, lightning, and dragon is imbued to the 8 pieces, while the attribute of star is enchanted into the fine specks of magical dust. They fight against my enchantments, clearly not wanting to hold them, but I persist, pushing them further as winds blow all around me. Then, just as it abruptly begins, it ends, and all the built-up force finally explodes, sending me crashing back onto the tool station's floor. But the new noble phantasm doesn't fall, remaining in the air as it glows. I blink at it for a moment, idly trying to think up a name for it, before I stop. From where I am, with the darkness surrounding me, the staff almost looks like a galaxy, with thousands upon thousands of stars orbiting around it in its many arms. The name crops up immediately. Andromeda. I hold my hand out to it, and through our connection, Andromeda comes to me, flying forward before stopping right in my hands. And I can't help but smile. Andromeda. Rank EX. The finite and the infinite. A possibility within an impossibility. The beginning is known, the ending has been laid in stone. So, what shall you do now? A noble phantasm created by Tsunaka Hanami, reforged from what was once, Alsamalsera. Its original purpose remains, but it is overshadowed now, nothing more than a footnote to the infinite expanse of history and desires built into it. It shines like the starry night sky, its glow bright and eternal even as the universe reaches its final heaving breaths. Attribute requirement annulled. Plus 400 intelligence and wisdom when wielded. Plus 200 luck when wielded. Plus 150 strength, vitality, and dexterity when wielded. Any magical spells cast with this staff is increased by 2 ranks. Creates a dome of light around the wielder, protecting the ones within and healing them. Any spells, rank B, or under is negated by the barrier. Range, speed, and intensity of the dome depends on the wielder's intelligence. Intensity of the healing effect depends on the wielder's wisdom. Any and all magic deals double damage. Constantly takes in the surrounding magical energy and stores it. Gains 10,000 MP/min. Currently stored MP 7/100,000. Durability, infinity. Dash, soul bound, to Tsunaka Hanami. You have been inflicted by stun. Movement has been disabled. Thing is, I can't move now. That blast of energy seems to have inflicted me with a status effect, one strong enough to bypass my abnormal status resistance, so I'm kinda stuck just sitting here. Bummer, but at least I can play around with Arcane Armory as I wait. Wait, I can't even use Arcane Armory. Shit. It took far too long for that status effect to wear off, made even longer by the fact that I couldn't do anything. Still, it eventually did, and the moment it wore off, I jumped out of the tool station, dropped back into Babylonia. I wanted to hug the ground first, but that would have gotten me dirty. But then I noticed Mash in the distance, and needing to recharge my tank of warmth, I rushed over and hugged the little eggplant, much to her embarrassment and confusion. That aside, a day seems to have passed entirely, not that I missed much. I asked Mash earlier if something had happened while I was gone, and she said no. Which is great. Would have been quite unfortunate for me to miss out on something because I got stunned out of all things. Well, now that I'm back, I guess I don't know actually. Things are kinda quiet right now, my mystic eyes aren't picking up anything, and there doesn't seem to be anything urgent I need to tend to at the moment. Shiro's off with Saber, Gil's at the castle with the other Gilgamesh, Ritsuka's still asleep, and everyone else is doing their own jobs. Aside from Merlin, who seems to be relaxing at the cafeteria, but let's ignore that real quick. So, yeah, I don't have much. No, wait. I do have something I need to check. The quest, a request from a king, has been completed. Main mission has been completed. You have received Hanami Memory Shard, Ectoplasm, X60. Extra mission has been completed. You have received Celestial Sigil. Not sure how I forgot about this while I was frozen, but, well, here it is. Not much is given overall. The quest gave no money or experience. The ectoplasm is a B+ material, so not something I'm going to use anytime soon. That memory shard though. Hanami Memory Shard. Consumable. A strange fragment containing the memories and experiences of Tsunaka Hanami. It's hardly complete, the complete memory shattered beyond recovery, but there still exists some memories. Upon usage, it triggers the memory of Tsunaka Hanami. Because of unique circumstances, the triggered memory will be that of another, Tsunaka Hanami, from another universe. A Tsunaka Hanami from another universe, is it? It doesn't say which one or what it'll show, but I guess that'll ruin the surprise of it all. I wonder if I can share the memory it'll show with others. Anyways. Celestial Sigil. Consumable. A strange plaque with a drawing carved onto it. Otherworldly energy seems to radiate from it. Upon usage, summons the Moon Lord. The second item's pretty much a self-contained boss fight that I can use at any time. Again, not using this one anytime soon. I've already got a boss fight waiting in the distance, and as cool as it sounds to summon this Moon Lord to try and fight Tiamat, that'll probably only lead to more trouble than good. Doesn't make it any less cool though. Well, now that those items have been reviewed. Now what? I guess I can test out World Shaper for a bit. Haven't gotten a chance to use it yet, and I don't think going out to battle with an unknown skill would be good in any way. Plan in mind, I quickly create an empty ID around myself, letting no one but myself inside. Now alone, I place my hand on the ground, letting my prana thrum as I familiarize myself with how the earth feels. Then, with my mystic eyes active, I infuse the earth with my magical energy. And pull. The earth roars as a chunk of soil and stone rises from the ground, growing taller than even the surrounding buildings. I let more of my magic surge into the ground, and at my command, more spears form out of the earth, growing high towards the clear skies above. I can't quite help but smile. Now then, how about this? Saturating the air with my prana, World Shaper activates, and the calm winds turn into a violent typhoon, one strong enough to chip away at the stone buildings. My smile widens. Because, you see, World Shaper allows me to control any terrain, right? But what counts as terrain, anyways? The earth obviously counts, but how about the air? I mean, if taken literally, terrain means a stretch of land, but in games, terrain usually means the location. Since Earth is a location, then sky must also be one as well, right? And as you see, it is. Which then also means that things like the sea can also be controlled by World Shaper. So, essentially, I'm now an earthbender, an airbender, and a waterbender. I just need some form of fire skill and I'll be the avatar. Wait, I'm a retainer of Rosaria, and I did have Fire Elementalist as one of my class choices, so that shouldn't be impossible. I should ask Rosaria about it soon. But, that aside, Merlin's free right now, so I think it's time to get his help for something I've been planning to do for some time. It is strange to be here, standing atop the walls of Babylon as she watches the empty wasteland Mesopotamia has become. Life had bloomed here once. She could remember the fields of grass and trees, decorated by glittering flowers and populated by ancient and powerful beasts. She remembered playing here as a child. This was her place, her location of solitude, and where she'd buried the first friend she'd made in this endless life. Those sights are gone now, and Gil can't help but frown slightly. This isn't her world. This Uruk isn't hers. The people there don't live under her. The riches there aren't hers. The weapons stored in the treasury aren't hers to wield. The approaching calamity isn't her task to ward. The people there aren't hers to protect. The fate of this humanity isn't hers. But the thought of their demise, of their acceptance towards the end, burns something inside her, makes her stomach feel heavy and her chest burns with a raging fire. It's love. Enkidu had told her once, under a bright starry night. Like how a parent would love their child, like how a man will care for her wife, like how a brother would love their sibling. It sparks the hearts inside us, burning us. Enkidu said, his eyes becoming soft as he placed a hand over his heart. An emotion strong enough to give even the earth a heart. Love. A love for her people, her kingdom, even across space and time. Gil's grimaces slightly, and used to those odd words. It is true, she supposes. She is, and always will be, a king for Uruk, for all the soldiers who'd so valiantly stood before the gods, and for all who stands under her. Then, now, and forever. She smiles, content. And then, somewhere in the deepest reaches of her treasury, a formless metal hears her oath, her resolve, and it begins to twist, melting as it changes its form. It hides itself, covering itself with the shine of the other treasures within the magical gates, and it continues to shift, awaiting the moment its king will hold it into battle. But, for now, it will wait. Smiling, Gil stands, giving the empty wasteland one more glance before she leaves, walking along the walls of Babylon as it leads her on, occupying her mind with a revelation Hanami had helped her make. The Gate of Babylon, a portal that led towards the infinite treasury she holds, and a vault for every treasury that existed and will ever exist. She'd never given it much of a thought. The treasury was her treasury, and that was it. It contained everything, and nothing could refute that. And then Hanami came up to her some time ago. If your vault contains every single thing that'll exist, does it also have things from the future, or even things from other universes? It was an innocent claim, and one even Hanami had admitted to being a joke. But she can't help but think. Her treasury contains every treasure that existed and will ever exist. That is true. Her legend made it true. However, how far can will ever exist stretch? So she summons a portal over her hand, watching the pool of gold shimmer and ripple. The portal leads to her treasury, a place not even she herself can see. If you truly do carry all treasures. She narrows her eyes. Then heed my call. And plunges her hand in. Freezing cold strikes her hand, almost as if she's dipped her hands into freezing waters, but the sensation quickly fades, replaced by the off-putting lack of sensations. She pushes past it and reaches deeper, searching further, and she envisions a fictional blade from a game she'd played some time before. Then, something solid comes into her hand, and she quickly pulls her hand out. Her eyes grow wide. Because her hand is no longer empty, instead filled with the handle of a particularly large and hefty blade. The Buster Sword. She recognizes it immediately, it's quite hard not to. A sword forged from advanced steels and oils, held and passed down through soldiers in a fictional world. For the first time in a while, Gil is stunned silent. She tries again, conjuring a portal and dipping her hand into it. She pulls it out soon after, and out with her hand comes a card, drawn upon it a face of a chained demon. The main card of the Exodia. A card containing a fictional demon. She tries again, and it works without fail. A Pokeball. Mega Man's blaster. Ratchet's firearm. Ragna's sword. A bar of futuristic polymers. Anything. She can't quite help but smile, one so broad it strained against her cheeks. The Gate of Babylon contains every and all treasures that exist. But that isn't quite true, is it? It doesn't simply contain, it creates, generates them based on her desires. She hasn't found its limits, and maybe there isn't any, but that doesn't matter as much at the moment. Her gate allows the creation of whatever she desires. And isn't that interesting? She says out loud, smirking as she turns towards a familiar man of clay and soil, standing a distance away from the walls. Don't you agree, Enkidu? Or is it Kingu now? Kingu glares at her, his purple eyes bright and hateful as he snarls. Gilgamesh. She huffs, brushing away a stray strand of hair from her eyes. How uncouth. She mutters with a frown. Attacking a woman on her lonesome. Do you have no manners? He doesn't say anything, but she smiles nonetheless. Not that I'd need anyone to aid me. The connection between her and her vault sparks, and 100 golden portals shimmer to life behind her, glowing bright as swords and spears of all kinds begin to form out of them. Kingu glares. Gil smirks. And the world trembles. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.